This was actually our Vault Hunter state of play,
Right.
as well as talking about Vault Hunters, guns, skills, all that fun stuff,
Mhm.
and just giving over overall gameplay feel. So they only went into their two of the Vault Hunters really. We have our new Siren Hex, and then our sort of the assassin type character, who is apparently like a Terrador ex assassin or soldier. And if you don't remember, Terrador was the guns that you were like the real reliable guns that to reload you threw it at people.
Yeah, it's they're the ones that usually playing those guns. You shoot one time and then you throw the gun, and it does more. It does more damage while throwing
it. Just digitizes a new weapon into your hand because then we also have a berserker type character who they didn't go into, and as well as a mechanic type character. For each of the characters, they are sort of unique looking as usual. But the big thing in this one, because I don't remember in 3, John, you're going to have to remind me, each character has 3 different action skills in this one. Was it just one action skill in 3?
Well, it was... So the way 3 worked was it was one action skill that you could modify with 3 different... It was basically you had one action skill, but you modified it in like one of 3 different
tech trees.
Key ways.
So it still had the traditional Borderlands. In this one, you actually have 3 different skills that you can actively swap between. So each character has 3 different skills, but you can only have one equipped at a time. And then each of those skills have 3 different spec trees. So like they mainly focused on the Siren. So for Hex, like one of her skills is she has a psionic blast that shoots forward and does damage, versus the other one, which she summons a familiar instead. And her biggest thing, her main core thing, is that her abilities do whatever elemental damage the weapon she's currently using is. So you can actively switch between elements with her as well based on your weapon build.
Okay. That's kind of interesting.
Yes. And then, as I said, each skill has its own 3 significant tech trees you can go down to expand on them whatever way you're wanting to. The assassin type character, his whole kit's apparently going to be different things where he creates something with, he's wearing like an exosuit, like the one they showed. He more or less creates 2 giant plasma arm blades and can just go in and start cutting people and start spinning. So his whole 3 skills are going to be some form of construct building.
Okay.
Our berserker guy, the main skill that they showed of him is gunzerking with axes. So he's a Viking.
Okay.
And then our tech character, the only real thing it showed her is she actually has, funny enough, Maya's trap bubbles, but as a tech building instead of a psionic one, which is sort of funny.
That's funny. I would have almost assumed like the tech character to be like the pet character, but it's the Siren.
Yeah, last time the pet character was the tech character, and same was with a pre-sequel with Wilhelm. And then in terms of guns, they changed it up a little bit. They're going back to their old loot system, so guns aren't going to be as rarity relevant.
I have a question about weapons, because I saw a picture that was attached to an article. It didn't give me the actual information. It just led me to believe. Can you swap parts out on guns?
So no,
Okay.
They didn't necessarily say that. So more or less how guns work with this game is, so as well as having the manufactured guns themselves, you have a base gun, and then because of, they didn't really explain why, guns are going to have different parts from different manufacturers.
Okay. That's Borderlands 2 as well. Borderlands 2 had the base weapon that would drop, and then each of the parts that were associated with it could be from the different brands. And it was basically
that was the enhancements.
Well, no, that was for on the weapons and shields themselves, because it would basically give you the prefix or the affix of the weapon. So it would be like more shielding or more ammo. Or like for a weapon, certain parts would give you parts would give you more ammo, but certain parts would give you more raw damage.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as much of a focus, I don't think, as they're kind of showing it.
This one they're more focusing, because like you can have like a base Jacob's weapon, but then like the barrel's like Molly one, so you have like a fast trigger pulling weapon with elemental damage, and it's going to be RNG rolls, is from what they said.
Okay.
So you're going to get guns with just all kinds of random effects. They do have what's replacing the artifacts, which is like a chip enhancement that you equip that gives you specific bonuses if a gun has a specific manufacturer's parts or whatnot. So you'll get some bonus if that gun has said manufacturer bonus or manufacturer part on it. Um, they did specifically mention, since people disliked how easily you got rare guns in 3, they've reset their loot tables, so it's going to be more of a thing of more rewarding for getting higher tier weapons and whatnot. And
That'll be nice because Borderlands 3 was kind of just like you could have nothing but legendaries in
yeah,
Borderlands 2, but you had to go farm specific enemies for
Yep.
them. Whereas in Borderlands 3, I mean, by like level 12, all you have are legendaries. in
yeah,
that
it
game.
was
It's like
pretty bad.
it's like every zone you went into would drop legendaries, like
Yeah,
just constantly.
yeah. Um, and then they showed off a couple characters, returning characters. The Siren from 3 and Zane are coming back. Moxie's still around. This is more or less like a continuation of from 3 with some time passed. Because did you beat 3, John?
I think so. I don't know. I've played 3 a bunch of different times. I don't remember if I've beaten it. That one was hard to get into.
It is hard to get into because I've won. But more or less, apparently, at some point at the end of the game, Lilith teleports an entire moon, and that sort of sets up for 4 because the moon and its trajectory pass runs into this hidden world that someone named the Timekeeper's been hiding away. And that's more or less, with the moon crashing into it, has led to an uprising against the Timekeeper because he was more or less leading a dictatorship from what it sets up as. Yeah, and then it showed a little bit of gameplay, in which I liked how they did their gameplay. It wasn't like a staged thing. It actually was just 2 people playing the game, and from looking at it, I was like, okay, this looks like a Borderlands game I've played and looks like fun. Because they were just looting, shooting, having fun with skills and whatnot, yada, yada, yada. So, I mean, after seeing this one, I feel a little bit better about Borderlands 4. Seems a bit more intriguing to me this time around versus 3.
Right.
I will be curious to see some of the more abilities for each of the characters. Because again, in this one, they mostly only showed Hex. There is a lot more traversal stuff in this one. Everyone has their own specific. It's pretty much a ghost from Halo.
Okay.
Everyone has that on hand. You can summon it, unsummon it like a mount. There's like some glide mechanics, some free falling mechanics, a lot more dashing and sliding in this one you can do around with, as well as like an environmental combat. Like everyone apparently has a sort of like a grapple because there's items just on the field that you can grab and throw at enemies. You can punch barrels to send at enemies that are designated different elements. So you have all the different element barrels you can kick towards people for environmental fighting, all that stuff and whatnot. They did change medkits a little. Apparently, instead of just being health items, they can also have like a special thing where when you heal, they also give you some sort of bonus. So that's going to be an equipment piece, sort of like how shields were. And shields are still a thing, but along with that, you're going to have medkit specific things like whenever you heal, you get some sort of damage bonus or extra health, something like that. So,
So that almost sounds like they've taken away like you said the word earlier, but like what they replaced the chip with.
yeah, the
It's
artifacts.
yeah, it almost sounds like they're fusing the artifact with like a new slot that is only active when you heal,
Quite possibly.
which makes more sense because like artifacts were
I could
love
do
them,
without 'em.
love them or hate them. It's like it was small bonuses that affected. It was like they were small things, but they did make a difference. So it did feel bad sometimes. It's like, well, I want to be doing something else, but this artifact is really good for this.
Yeah.
So having it be more of like a occasional thing that activates could be helpful.
Yeah. And then they also did mention the state of play that they apparently somehow revamped their online lobbies so it's much more quicker for in and out for people to join up and whatnot.
Right. One question that I had, because I know you said that you're overall just feeling a lot better about it. Both of you were in the mindset of, hey, it looks like Borderlands.
Yeah.
You know, which fair. That's, is this like one of those things where it's like now you're like really interested in like getting this like kind of immediately kind of thing, or still like, I'll get it when I get it.
I'd be more likely to pick it up sooner. Maybe
Okay.
not initially release week, just depending on what's going on in September.
That's fair.
But I mean, it's definitely one I'd be very much interested in playing in because I mean, yes, it does look like Borderlands, but it feels like they did hear what people were saying about 3 and have changed to make it look like it's be fun doing a looter shooter again.
Gotcha. Yeah, which that has been moved up to September 12th. It was like a week or two early. It got moved up.
So here's my question. I know you said they only really showed off 2 of the Vault Hunters and
Mhm.
kind of what they had going on. Do the Vault Hunters look more interesting than the ones in 3? As part of my
Based on what I saw, to me, yes.
because like I was thinking back on 3. Part of my problem with 3 is I didn't like any of the Vault Hunters.
See, the only ones I really remember is the Siren because I always play Siren, and then the cyborg guy with the pets. But apparently, they brought back Zane, the assassin guy, because apparently he was more of a fan favorite, supposedly.
Yeah. I don't know. I tend to move. I tend to always prefer playing or like moving towards like the pet characters.
Yeah.
Uh,
And then I don't even remember the 4th character.
in 3, you had the Siren. You had, I think the other one's name was Mose, who summoned like the big, like armored tank kind of.
Right,
And then
her,
you had
Zane.
You had Zane. Zane was kind of the run and gun guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's the one who had the after image, I believe.
And then you had the other guy was the one who like I think he summoned like a dog or a
Yeah, he had some
bird.
sort of pet.
He had various different types of pet summons. But yeah, it's like that was besides like not enjoying the story of 3 and like the actual gameplay of it feeling kind of mediocre.
Yeah.
It was like I didn't vibe with any of the Vault Hunters. It's probably the first Borderlands game I didn't like any of the Vault Hunters.
Yeah, because I mean, usually I like Sirens, even though they're not one of the necessarily flashiest gameplays. But Amara was her name in 3. Her power wasn't very fun.
Yeah, that was like because when you were talking about the powers of these guys, that reminded me in 3 it was the thing of you could pick between 3 different action skills, but you unlocked them at various levels.
Okay.
So it was like you would start with one, and then as you leveled up, you would get put points in the tree,
Yeah.
and then you would unlock another one, and then once you were high enough level, you could pick between any of them, and then that was the one that you used.
Yeah, but based on the skill tree they showed in this game, more or less once you unlock the initial active ability, because each of the characters have there's like core that each one that it's basing it about. Like as I said, Hex's whole core thing is her element damages whatever her gun's element is.
Yeah.
So as soon as you activate that active ability, you can freely choose from all 3 of them from what it looked like.
Okay. Yeah, I may have to actually look into it a bit more because that's one thing is like, yeah, I mean you could have a great Borderlands game, but if I'm not, it could be fantastic. But if I don't vibe with any of the Vault Hunters, I'm not gonna have a fun time.
I mean, out of her 3 powers, the psionic blast, I mean, it's a thing, but it didn't seem interesting. But the whole pet one might be interesting to me.
But yeah, it's a Scion. You gotta have some sort of, you gotta have some sort of like psionic ability kind of to use.
And then based off the little bit they showed of the other 2, I mean, the Viking guy gave me hard Gunzerker vibes, just with axes instead of guns.
Yeah, I'd have to look into it because that was one of the things. Like Borderlands 2, I mean, Salvador is the most popular. He's like the most popular favorite Vault Hunter of all time.
Yeah,
I didn't like him. I didn't like guns.
I could understand that. And then the tech character, I'd be curious to see what her other powers is, because I mean, her whole bubble thing seems interesting and it looks like it could be actually sort of fun because like where Maya, she had like the single cage, she's just going do 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 do, and just everyone's now in bubbles.
Yeah, honestly, that of the characters you've mentioned, that's the one that I'm like, that might be the one that I would have my eye on. That or the Scion. I don't normally play the Scions, but
The Siren, yeah.
or the Siren. Yeah, it's like I would probably be more interested in one of those 2 characters.
And with how they did phrase it in the video, they said our 4 Vault Hunters at launch, implying that they may release more in DLC later on.
Sounds like it.
I don't, because they started that with pre-sequel. No, they started that with 2. My bad. I don't. Did they release any more hunters for 3? Because I didn't keep up.
I think
with
it was only 4.
Okay.
Or
So
the 4 Vault Hunters. Because pre sequel I thought pre sequel they only had no, because
Pre-sequel-
they added the ice.
they added the Ice Lady and then Jack's clone.
Was Jack's Clone DLC?
Yeah.
Oh, that's primarily what I played, I think.
Yeah, just later along, you pretty much got that with the game because the initial pre-sequel was her name Catalan?
I don't remember any of their names.
It was the lady with the whip, Wilhelm with his drones, or Mech, Claptrap, and then Athena.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think the first time I played through, I played as Wilhelm, and then every time after that, I played as Jack's Clone.
Yeah, then they added Jack's clone, and then what's his face sister.
Yeah, I know Aurelia.
Yeah, and then 2, as far as I'm concerned, still has most entertaining cast in form of Krieg. Giga, I think her name was, with her bot. Gage, yeah. And then there was one other one that they added as DLC, I want to say. Because there was someone in between Gage and Krieg, I want to say. Or maybe I'm making that up.
I think there was just Krieg and Gage. I could be wrong on that.
That's quite possible.
It's been a while since I played. I mostly played that game as Gage.
Yeah. And I played it as, once Krieg came out, because Krieg's fun.
Yeah, and from the way they kind of worded that, it does sound like they'll probably just add some more characters on later for you.
I mean, I think they slightly worded that the same way when they did 3, but they saw how 3 was received and just went,
never mind.
We'll just push out the regular DLC.
It's
move
one
on to
where
other
like
things.
ever since Borderlands 2 and even pre-sequel, because pre-sequel was a weird game where it's like it was a game that like initially people didn't vibe with as well, but I think over time kind of became beloved.
Yeah, because that one was also suffered because of how its initial receive. The team that was working on pre-sequel got cut, so they apparently had like 2 more DLC for that game that just never got released.
But yeah, that's one where it's like, I mean, those games were ended up being successful, so they're always kind of hoping that they can do like that Borderlands 2 and just release 9 DLCs for it.
Yeah, recapture that magic. I feel like that's what they've been trying to do. From someone look from the outside looking in, that's what it looks like.
The one other thing they did mention the state of play is, besides some of our traditional gun manufacturers we're used to, there is 3 new ones being introduced in this game that are unique to the Timekeeper's world, which I forget what it's called. They said the name of the world, but I don't remember.
I mean, that'd be cool. They've been doing that since pre-sequel, really, where they introduce new weapon types that don't make their way into the next games, which I'm fine with. They're generally interesting.
I feel like that also just kind of keeps that one particular title, something unique about it. I don't know. That's just me guessing, but
they usually keep the fan favorites like Jacobs, Mollywan, Torque.
Yeah, it's like they've got the I think it's like the core 4 because it's Tor, Jacobs, TDR, Mollywan, and
there's just one more I'd have to go by, but those are the ones I usually use because Theodore and Mollywan's from Borderlands 2, and then Torque and Jacobs are the only surviving members from Borderlands 1.
But yeah, it's like, I mean, it's Borderlands. I play every Borderlands. Whether I play it when it comes out is going to be dependent on what's out.
That's right. They did also change one other thing where they now have what they're calling the ordnance slot, which is for whatever the heavy weapons. So like you're gonna have beside your 4 weapon slots, you'll have your ordnance spot, which is for like rocket launchers. This new sort of chain gun they actually show off in the state of play demo. They also mentioned grenades in there. So for any of your like big heavy weapons, and
are they moving rockets to that slot?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And instead of them being like timed to ammo slots or whatnot with low ammos and whatnot, it's just on a cooldown, so it's more available.
Okay. That'll be nice because that's one thing where it's like Because in some of the Borderlands games, it's like by the time you get to the end of the game, it's like you could just, or especially if like by the time you're like max level or something, you can just run through with some of the more powerful rockets and that and clear maps with a
Yeah.
couple shots.
But at the same time, you've usually been saving it for like boss fights because like you want it for a boss fight.
Yeah. Having it not rely on it and it being more of like an oh shit button.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
I was fine with that too because like they in the like little tech demo, the gameplay demo, they use it like 3 or 4 times, and it's about almost 20 minutes of gameplay across it with them going through the systems and everything. Well, I take that back. The whole video itself is 20 minutes, but some more like a 15-minute gameplay video.
So
And
are rockets and grenades going to be vying for that slot? Because if
Who
they're
knows?
both vying for that slot, I mean, I'm not going to lie, that's going to be a grenade slot for me most of the time. Because the grenades are always way more interesting than the rockets.
they are. They sort of referenced it in sort of like the ordnance, but they didn't go in the full depth of what the ordnance, besides it being like this is going to be your heavy weapon and it's going to be on a cooldown.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I guess that would be a way to kind of curb some of the power that they've put into those slots.
Yeah.
Because I mean, historically in Borderlands games, one of your more powerful slots is going to be your grenade slot.
Yeah. Because they didn't really deep dive into grenades and how that mostly was just ordnance, main weapons, abilities, all that fun stuff.
Okay.
A little bit of the traversal systems they've added in.
I may look at it a little bit because, like I said, it's one where it's on my radar because it's Borderlands. It's not high on the radar. It's one of those where it's like, if something else interesting comes up around it, I'm more likely to play the more interesting thing and then have that on the back burner as something I can go back to.
3 set a very low bar for the Borderlands community.
I could tell. I could tell.
I've played through Borderlands 1, 2, and pre-sequel a half dozen times each, if not more. I couldn't tell you if I've beat 3.
That's sad.
I know I did not beat 3 because
I'm leaning towards probably didn't. I think I played up till pretty close to the end, and it kind of hit that point where I'm like, this isn't doing it for me.
see, I'm pretty sure I played up to the end of the first planet, and I didn't even go to the second planet.
Yeah. 3 is a very dark spot in Borderlands.
The only bad part about the state of play is Randy was in it.
I get that I get that they want it, that like he thinks he's the face. I get that he's excited about it.
Everyone's tired of seeing him.
Get away from it and it'll be marketed better.
He showed up at first. I went, I hate you.
It like literally he shows up on screen and people groan.
Like, oh,
It's
this
like-
guy again.
Anytime Borderlands is showed off, it's got to lead with him, and it's like the internet as a whole groans. They're like, I mean, we'd like to see Borderlands. We don't want to see you, Randy.
Luckily, he had a very small bit, so it was fine. He literally showed up to be like, we're here to show off Borderlands 4. He did his
Randy
thing
things.
he likes to do.
Randy
Dude,
things.
Man, I will never get the Borderlands 3 announcement showcase out of my goddamn. It's burned into my brain with how fucking bad it was. It was the most awkward show I've ever seen.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah. You guys
It
have.
didn't. Nothing worked either. Nothing worked, and he ran everything into the ground with like awkwardness.
Just get away from Borderlands, Randy. We're tired of seeing you.
Randy, you run a good company in Epic Games. We just don't need you in the promotional stuff.
Just go run things behind the scenes. Stay back there,
Put
buddy.
someone else's face on it, man. We don't need it. Everybody's got bad memories of you right now. Come back in like Borderlands 5 or 6.
Yeah, it might be a little bit more welcoming. So, yeah, shout out to Borderlands 4. Shout out to the new release date of September 12th and the state of play. Looks like it could be a little promising after the dark days that was Borderlands 3.